When I got diagnosed, I was pretty young, 4 years old roughly, and I was going to the bathroom all the time and I was losing a ton of weight. My babysitter at the time told my parents, hey, this isn't a normal thing, you should probably get her checked out. When I was diagnosed, my blood sugar was in the 700-800 range. And for people who don't know, 100 is pretty normal, so I was pretty up there.
I was a big baby when I was born, and about 6 months in, I started losing weight, and I was eating like crazy. They thought since I was so skinny or had lost so much weight that they would put me on a sugar IV, which put me into a coma. Thankfully, like a resident came in and said, I know what it is, it's diabetes.
I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 25. I had been losing a lot of weight and didn't really realize what might be going on. I was also drinking a lot of water and using the bathroom an awful lot, and somebody suggested, Jean, you should go to the doctor and have a diabetes test. So I said, okay. Got a call later that day from the doctor who said, Jean, you do have diabetes, your blood sugar is at 800. Would you like to go to the hospital?
I was diagnosed when I was only 2 years old, so I don't really remember it very thoroughly, but I remember my mom telling me that she brought me into the doctors and I had no idea what was going on.
We had no family history or anything. Total shock, and then it's kind of denial. There must be a mistake. This isn't happening to my beautiful little 2-year-old girl.
I was 10 years old when I was diagnosed, so just 2 years ago now. I was constantly thirsty and drinking water, and it wasn't regular. Like, I'd drink a lot of water and I was still thirsty, and so like I decided to tell my mom about it.
Checked her blood and there it was. And then at that point, overwhelmed. I knew what was in store for us, for her.
My mom just started crying, but like Abby, she's like, oh my gosh, you're coming to diabetes camp and the JDRF gala, it's so awesome. And so I was like happy that day, whereas like everyone was sad and they're like telling everyone. And then there was me like, camp sounds fun, I'd love to go. And so it wasn't that bad of an experience.
Lots of different emotions that day, but
When I first started, there were 2 different kinds of insulins that I had to use, different lengths of time during the day that they were active. And so I took multiple shots. I did that for about 15 years and then was able to move on to an insulin pump, which gave me a lot of freedom.
The pump, you know, I call it my artificial pancreas, so my pump is freedom.
I've been on an insulin pump since I was 12. I hide it in a bunch of crazy places. It takes the guesswork out of it because as you get older, you start to feel low blood sugars less or high blood sugars less, and you get kind of nervous because you're working 9 to 5 without a lunch break and you don't know what's going on, but you can just peek at your insulin pump and know what your blood sugar is and kind of work off of that.
It allowed me to not have to do all the math that's needed to calculate how much insulin you should take with each meal. I was able to adjust my insulin as I was exercising, and so I was much more able to do everything that I want to in my life.
My biggest fear would be that diabetes gets in the way and stops me from like leading a normal life where I can, you know, do all my favorite sports and activities and eat all my favorite foods and stuff, and I don't want diabetes to stop that.
My biggest fear would definitely be to see another one of my sisters get diagnosed with this disease. Because that was very hard, seeing Josie go through this experience, and I don't wish it on anyone. At some point I would like to have a child, hopefully, if I can, but what if the hereditary thing starts to work its way into my child, and then I have to deal with the way that I was when I was a child with my own child. So all of the fears that my parents I know my parents felt every day, then I actually have to own up and feel those fears too.
I was so nervous about having an unhealthy baby. My first pregnancy, I remember, you have to write a log. So you have to write this log about every single thing that you eat, every single blood sugar you have. It was a pain in the butt. The second time around, I'm on the pump. So my pregnancy was a piece of cake. Like, I can't even tell you, no more journaling, no more anything. I was able to download my stuff on the internet. It was like day and night. I cannot tell you how much easier it was.
JDRF has been instrumental in me being able to control my diabetes and have the hope that we will have a cure someday so that I don't have to have an insulin pump and insulin injections whenever I need them.
I feel like I support JDRF in a lot of different ways around the community. One of the biggest things that my husband and I are involved in is the Young Leadership Committee. We're working together to work towards a cure, to turn type 1 into type none.
For me, a cure would mean that life could go back to the way it was back when I was 10 years old, and I didn't have to worry about everything when I ate or played a sports game, or it'd just be back to the way it was.
A cure would mean a new life. It would make up, I feel, for all the years that I've lost things from, or not being able to go on trips because of my diabetes, because my parents are too worried. Just all the things I'm missing out on. It would just mean a whole new life and so much more freedom.
We grow up, but the disease doesn't go away.
JDRF research efforts have vastly improved the lives and care for people with diabetes, and I am living proof of it.
With JDRF's plan and your support, we will create a world without type 1 diabetes. Join us.
Turning the tide on a cure.
Together, we will turn type 1 into type none.